There we go. Apologies, everyone. Let me just start again. Hello and welcome to today's fifth show and tell. We had a feedback loop there. My name's Tom. I'm the product owner here at Southwark Council alongside Pete. Firstly, we need to advise you, this is live, as you can just see. This presentation is being recorded and it will be available on this YouTube channel in due course. Pete, if I could ask you to jump on the next slide, you have, brilliant. For those who don't know, BoPs is a new planning software application designed by and for local planning authorities, and it will be there to make the processing of planning applications more efficient and more intuitive, allowing case officers to make decisions quicker and use less resources. So our users are planning officers who process the applications and the planning managers who sign off the applications. Next slide, Pete. So, as I said, through the feedback loop there, we're at the fifth sprint of this phase of development. Our primary work streams are, as you probably know, we've been working on the LDC certificate for MVP and moving towards the private beta testing. We've been working on the MVP for householder applications in terms of design and development work, but the functionality that we've been building for the householder side also relates to the lawful development certificate side of BoPs. It is one product. So we've been working on that, and we've also been working on our comms as well with MHCLG. Next slide, please. If you have any questions, do ask them. We'll come to them at the end of this show and tell. You can jump on the link here. It's in the link to the description. So pop your questions in there and we'll come to the end. So Pete, without further ado, let me hand over to you and you can tell us what we've been up to this sprint. Over to you, Pete.
Cheers, Tom. It's been a busy sprint across the whole of the team and partners. And what we've been, the theme of this sprint really has been implementing improvements prior to our launch. So we've got our minimum viable product launch coming up in the near future, and that's definitely the focus of our efforts. So as you're going to hear more from the dev team in a little while, we've been working on applications received email going out to the applicant. So that's confirming to the applicant that their application has been safely received by RIPA and BoPs. We have introduced a new system for auditing change requests or validation requests. So these are requests for new or different information from the applicant during the validation process. We have been designing for evidence tags for documents for LDC. So this is supporting information when you're making an LDC submission, and we want to tag those documents so that we can more easily identify what that information is that they're uploading. And we've been doing a design for validation requests. So these are things that aren't red line, missing or incorrect documents or changes to description. It's a catch-all really. And we have agreement for the presentation of the fee information from RIPA. So that's great. So when someone pays during the RIPA process to GovPay, we are now able to receive that data into BoPs. We've been doing tons of end-to-end testing. And so thank you to the partners and others that have been involved in doing that, getting us ready for MVP. We've been having a few other more wider preparations for go live as well, and loads and loads of updates to the user guide that helps case officers use BoPs to process these applications. So we have approval from all three councils for go live, which is fantastic. We're working closely with MHCLG on the comms plan, and yesterday we had our project board meeting. So quite a lot going on. To begin digging into all of that is Tom G at Unboxed, and I'll pass you over, Tom, to tell us all about evidence tags.
Thanks, Pete. So I'm Tom G. I am the UX designer and researcher working with Unboxed on this project. And so one of the things we picked up at the start of this sprint was looking at evidence tags. So currently in BoPs, we were able to receive plans. They were the documents, and we could tag those plans with whether they're proposed, existing, floor plan, elevation, whatever the details were. However, as we look forward to supporting immunity applications, so where someone might be looking to apply for immunity for something they've had built for or been in use for X number of years, we need to be able to manage, so to take in evidence and to tag it as such, what type of evidence it is. And so this feature we've added tags the document in the same way as you would do for a plan, so there's no need to sort of deal with them separately. And it allows the categories that are set out in the guidance, all of those categories can be used, and these are able to be sort of understood at a high level by the officer to sort of easily see where the weight is. You know, if you've got a statutory declaration there, you can go to that as your first point of call. Maybe a photograph might take more investigation, so it gives them a good summary at this high level of all documents. However, if we move to the next piece of work, next slide, yeah, the main focus of the work from my perspective for this sprint has been around the process for invalidating applications. And as part of that, getting to this point where BoPs is able to send out the invalidation letter, and with that invalidation letter, tell the applicant that, one, their application is invalid, and two, provide them with some reasons for why it's invalid, and also give them a chance to take action upon that to make it valid. And so the first sort of step in this 3-step process, which will end with this kind of sending out letter, is a change in how we're calling change requests. So previously we developed change requests. However, in user testing, it became clear that this was a little bit generic. And actually what was really required was to focus the attention on the validation aspect of this. So we are asking the applicant to make a change to their application, but it is in relation to making the application valid. So validation requests is the new name for change requests and responding to user testing. If we move to the next slide, please. And as part of this, currently supported were validation requests for a new document, for a replacement document, for a description change, or for a red line change. So that's to the sitemap. What we have added is the other validation request, and this supports any other validation issue that the officer may, or validation agent may wish to raise with the applicant. And so, for example, incorrect fee would probably be the majority of these, but could be any other issue that we want to capture. The officer provides the applicant with a reason why the application is invalid, and then explains to them how they can rectify it. And this is sent through what was the change request process, but the validation request process as it will be, to the applicant. They can see this and they can respond to it. And if we go to the next slide, please. And this really supports. So what we've done now is we're able to request any kind of change that may be necessary, or provide any reason for invalidation. And that means that we can now connect together the process of the officer saying that the application is invalid with the sending out of these validation requests. And this means two things. It means that we are able to meet our requirement by legislation that sets out that we must notify the applicant as soon as it's made invalid and provide them with reasons. But it also means that rather than sending multiple individual requests, we can sort of put them together into one actionable, we send one email with a link to all the actions that they need to take to make it valid. And once complete, this will remove a workaround that has been put in place for MVP where officers are having to send the invalidation letter separately, and this will drastically sort of reduce their workload through the process of validation once we've successfully implemented this. So that covers my work for this sprint, and I'm going to hand over to James to talk us through the RIPA result.
So hello, I'm James. I'm a tech lead on the project. One of the things that we did on the development side was not actually implementing any features, but agreeing on what we need to get from RIPA to be able to build some features in the next sprint. So the main one of this was what we're calling the RIPA result. So previously RIPA was sending us all of the information that it captured from the applicant and sending that to us, and then we display that to the officer. But what RIPA also does is tell the applicant whether it thinks it will or will not be lawful development. And we were not showing that to the officer. So the officer was seeing all of the information that had been sent across, and those questions were largely around trying to come up with an answer to that question, but we weren't actually receiving the opinion that RIPA had. So that's very helpful for the officer to understand, to give context to those questions. So we've come to an agreement that has support will be sent to us. That hasn't been sent to us yet, but it will be this sprint. So we'll be developing features to show that to the officer. As you can see here from what we've agreed is that we'll understand why the officer, why RIPA thinks it is or isn't permitted development. And so that will hopefully enable the officers to more quickly get through applications, because RIPA can flag and say, look, this is immune, or this is permitted development needed based on what the questions that RIPA has asked. Next slide, please. And one other thing that we've agreed with RIPA is that we were receiving the payment reference, which would enable us to join up the accounting at the back in the background, but we didn't actually know how much money the applicant had paid, which obviously the officer will know is what should be the right amount. So now they can see how much. So once we receive this information, we'll be able to build the feature to show what that amount of money is, so they can raise any flags if needed. Those are the two things we've agreed. I'll pass over to Rianne now.
Hi, I'm Rianne. I'm a developer on the project, and we've been working on some different things this sprint from a dev point of view. One of the things we've done is to send out a receipt email, an acknowledgement of receipt of the planning application via the GovUK Notify service. Previously, the first contact we had with the applicant was at the point where the application was either validated or invalidated. Now they will get the email that you see here once their application is created within the BoPs system. Next slide, please. Worth mentioning for the previous feature and this one that these are both features that are on the staging environment for BoPs and which will be deployed to the production environment shortly. And this was a bigger piece of work. Tom was talking earlier about the change requests, now called validation requests. We had already an audit log which showed all the key events in the life cycle of the application. But now we've added to this a audit log for every time a planning officer sends out a validation request, and every time the agent or applicant sends back their response, whether it's approved or rejected. And in that, we've also added, you'll see here that the description and the documents validation requests are now numbered, so that anyone looking at the audit log can see at a glance which validation requests have been sent out and what their responses were. And Pete's going to demo this, so I will pass back to him.
Cheers, Rianne. Yeah, it wouldn't be a proper show and tell without some sort of live demo. So hopefully I can break out of this presentation and jump onto the staging server. So if I just log out, and here we are on the BoPs staging server for Southwark. I can log in. I'm just going to be an assessor, which is a case officer in our language, and scroll down to one of these applications, 11 Abbey Gardens. And what I've done here, I've already done it this morning, but what we would do is we would come in and have a look at the application, check our documents, and then in the process of checking documents, I notice, oh, there's a document missing, so that's unfortunate. What we would do is go back and mark the application invalid, save that. It's been invalidated. And then what we can do is, as described, we can start new and review existing requests. So we click on this, and here we can see that I've already suggested a change of description and requested a new document. And if I want to, I can add a request for something else as well, such as another new document, where I can say proposed roof plans and required for validation. Through the magic that is technology, that then winds its way to the applicant, they're able to see this in their own, they receive an email, and there's a link in that email that clicks them through to a dashboard. So if we see what they come in and see, they will click on their link in the dashboard, and they'll come through and they can see that there's a previous description. Let me jump out back again. Sorry. They will jump in the dashboard and they will see this. So it's an overview of their application and it will explain that they now need to make the requested changes. And if we go down here, we can see that there's a change to the description and 2 missing documents. So if we go into the description, we can see what the previous description was, we can see what the new description is that's being suggested, and they can agree or disagree with the changes. And on this occasion, I'm a really knowledgeable agent. I'm going to say, oh, it's not quite right, that. It's add a porch and side extension. We both got it wrong for ages, and can submit that. And if I wanted to, I can go in and now choose a file and upload that to the site. So if I jump back to the tool and refresh, here I am as the case officer, and I can see that the applicant has rejected my suggested change and put add a porch and side extension. And so that's how the process works pretty smoothly. The case officer needs only to work in BoPs. The applicant doesn't have to worry about login details or anything like that. If a case officer is away on leave or sick, there are no emails to have to hunt down in Outlook or anything. It's all within the tool. So really, really pleased to see this on staging, and really looking forward for this to be moved up to production, hopefully really soon, so that we can start playing with that in earnest for MVP. Okay, anything that I additionally should have mentioned in all of that, or are we happy that that's covered it?
Could you just show the audit log for those?
Oh yeah,
you've made, please?
Thank you. So if I jump back to the application, we want to know that obviously the work that I've done has been tracked. This is important for a number of reasons. And if we go into key application dates and the activity log, we can see in here everything that I've done in terms of requesting a new change. And here you can see that this is tracker number 2. So this is the second time we've done that. And down here, we can see that the agent and the applicant have responded, and what the details of were that. This is important for a few reasons. One, it allows the case officer to see, like, just how involved a case has been. But for the metrics of the success of Ripper BoPs, it allows us to see, well, how many times do these validation requests loop? When I was working at Wickham in looking after the validation team there, we had sometimes even 9 or 10 loop backs to the applicant. It's an extremely frustrating process, both for the council and the applicant, and also just the type of rejections that we're getting. By being able to see them as data, what we can do is think about the ways in which our guidance is worded and why applicants are getting this wrong, and think also about the Ripper flow to make sure that these errors are designed out as much as possible. Cool, hopefully that's it. Anything else, Tom? Rianne, am I good? Cool. In that case, back to show and tell. So as you know, heavily trailed, we're moving towards this MVP launch in the near future, and we've been doing a lot of private beta testing. So we're reviewing feedback to finesse notifications and the functionality. We're preparing the user guide, as mentioned, and a really big piece of work. And thank you so much to my Southwark colleagues in finance who have been supporting this, but also our finance colleagues at Lambeth and Bucks who have got this set up too. We have now all 3 councils received payment from GovPay and reconciled that with our back office finance systems. So all good to go. That's another milestone achieved, and in incoming days at Southwark, we'll be looking at the refund process as well. We're working, as you already know, on the comms plan with MHCLG, and a really important step forward, although there's a bit of a typo there, we've been setting up the Power BI gateway server, not the Power Big 8-way server. what Power BI is, it's a data visualization tool that allows you to look at data in the form of a database or a spreadsheet or whatever and represent that as a chart or graph. This is really important because we want to show the performance of BoPs versus our existing or current systems, our legacy systems. And we want to be able to track the amount of time, both in terms of how much processing time it takes for a member of staff to process or execute an application, but also the elapsed time. So how long, if it took them 2 hours, but was that 2 hours and it took 2 weeks to get that done, or was it 2 hours and it was done in a morning? So Power BI will allow us to see all of that online, real time, self-serve. It's a fantastic tool. What's coming up next? Well, continuing validation requests and presenting further application data in BoPs from Ripper. So that's going to be the main theme of the next sprint. Implementing payout amount from Ripper, that would be great. And the result from Ripper as described by James. And we've got other validation requests off a certain applicant. Invalidation letters to send from BoPs and preparation for monitoring of BoPs during the private beta. And my nemesis, the never-ending user guide, that is always tweaked, because every time something new gets pushed to production, obviously the user guide needs to be updated. But that's just a continuous process and agile working. So we would love you to get involved. I think councils are beginning to see now that the time that this is going to save, both in the reduction of planning applications, but also by being able to do validation in a much quicker and smoother way. And so we are now getting a bit more interest from people who are thinking, yeah, maybe now's the right time to get on board with this project. We're not asking a lot of you, really just around giving up your staff for a little bit of user testing and getting different perspectives, because 3 councils doesn't represent the country, and there's all kind of policies, tweaks and quirky things that happen in different councils that we'd love to know about. So thank you so much for your attention today. And my question now is to Freya. Freya, do we have any questions?
You're on mute.
Sorry about that, I was on mute. Thank you, Pete, and thanks to everyone who's been watching us this morning. We have got 2 questions that have come in, so I'll ask them in the order that they came through. So the first question is, when do you go live and start processing LDCs?
Really soon. I can't say for sure when that's going to be, but, you know, just stay tuned, keep your eye on the press, and I'm sure we'll know really soon when we can do this. It is going to be a private beta, so if you have a particular personal interest in processing one and being one of the first, I am thinking about a project that I might try and throw in there. Just get in touch, and we'll see if we can make that happen. So yeah, really soon.
Great. And then second question is from Dave at Coventry, and he said, when the MVP goes live, will it need to integrate with the LA's building control, land charges, systems, processes, and also the property gazetteer? And if so, how?
Brilliant question, Dave. Yeah, short answer, yes. So any application that we process through Ripper BoPs is going to have to meet all of its requirements in the same way that an application processed through our legacy systems does. Now, because of the way that Agile works, is we don't build the great Leviathan and then launch it. What we do is we build a minimum viable product and launch that, test it and add functionality and tweak it and refine it. So does it do all of the things that it needs to do? No. Does it do all of the things that are required for one type of planning application, LDC proposed? Yeah. Now, it won't necessarily be the case in all situations. So for things like gazetteer, creating a new address and so forth, we haven't got those links set up yet, but we're aware of them. They're certainly in the roadmap. But for now, for the application types that we're looking at, it does do everything that we need it to. So we are ready for it to launch. For completeness, we're still going to be processing these applications through our legacy system. So they'll run through Ripper BoPs, but then each of the councils has decided to also run them through legacy system. That will be sped up, of course, because the officer will be familiar with it through Ripper BoPs, and the validation is quite quick in Ripper BoPs now as well. So yeah, well done for spotting all of the work that we've yet to do, Dave. And yeah, thank you, Coventry, for helping us get this far as well. Freya.
Okay. And then we just have one more question that's just come in. So they've said, looking great. Is the back and forth between the tool and the applicant or agent going to be instant?
Yeah, it is. Okay. In that case, thank you everybody for your attention today. And yeah, thank you to the team for getting us here. And we'll see you all, I think, in 2 weeks at the next show and tell. See you then.